wish I knew what this guy was doing these days.
He's going to be wearing green and gold for the next 12 months.
All right, so welcome back to Sydney, guys. We are here really briefly, and what I want to do today is talk a little bit about a bike race. Now, over a month ago, I did the Grand Fondo version of the Australian Road Championships. To start with, this was the least Fondo-y thing I've ever done in my life. There was no sort of selfies on the climb as you did all that kind of thing. This was a legit bike race. And better than that, I was not fit. I really was not fit. You were watching the vlogs that I was doing, right? I'm slopping about the place. But it was on, and it was really hard. So what I want to do today, guys, is I ran the bike camp. 3 things happened during this bike race, which I want to share with you, which hopefully will give you an idea about how you can get around a bike race. Do a good account of yourself when you know you're not that fit. All right, kids, let's dive straight into it. Now, just a little bit about the course. You guys probably remember I did a vlog while I was down there, rode the climb with Ben, and the climb is the big part of this Road Championships course. So we get underway, and the whole thing with this, right, is you basically make this left turn after essentially 100 meters, and you start climbing. And the climb is, well, people like to think it's a false flat climb on camera, but it is anything but. It is a really hard, draggy climb that kicks off pretty much straight away. Now, the good thing about the bottom of this climb is you tend to come into it with a bit of momentum. But what I want to talk about as we sort of ride along here is, the first thing is, well, the kind of training that can be really, really beneficial for this particular type, well, not actually just this particular type of race, but honestly, I reckon personally, any type of race that has good climbing in it, this type of climbing, this type of training is super beneficial, and it's something called over-unders. The reason I want to show you the full length of this climb as I'm doing it is my power. Now, I'm pretty light at this point. I always have a whinge about this on Strava. I don't have a whinge about it, but like, I don't get any numbers froth on Strava because, well, I'm not that good, but also because being a light person, Dylan and I always have this conversation, you don't get the like, oh wow, like his threshold is 480 watts. It's like, no, it's like 300 and something, and you know, whatever, battle away. So my point here is the over-under stuff, okay? So what that basically refers to is training sessions that force you to ride underneath your threshold, just underneath it, and just over it. So we're into the main part of the climb here, and a little bit maybe about myself at this point. So I am around 61, 62 kilos, that sort of area. Now, my threshold I would normally say is about 330, but it's not. During this race, you know, I reckon at a push 320 in a real life circumstance, probably, I reckon my FTP here is about 300 watts, all right? So at this point, I'm a few minutes in, and I know that this is going to be tough because I'm probably into a sort of a VO2 area of my training, well, not my training, this racing. So I'm already going sort of above and beyond what I'm probably capable of. Now, the over-under aspect of it, okay? Now, if you watch my power sort of move here, let's say my threshold is 315, 320, something around that. You're going to see my power kind of move either side of that threshold. It's never really going to be at that FTP number, is it? It's gonna vary between the two, and that's what's super beneficial about this over-under training. The other good thing about an over-under training session is people can really rely on this session as their tempo sessions. They can rely on it for essentially some of their VO2 stuff because it does cover a lot of bases. And as you'll see here, my point for showing this, right, is that in the real world, i.e. in a bike race, not a Fondo, which I thought this was going to be, but that's a whole other story, that's what happens. Like, no one really sits at the front and just rides at threshold and drops everyone. You get these kind of punchy surges, and this is a really common training session for people training to do this bike race. Absolutely, this over-under training session, because here we go again. We see how we dropped down under 300 for a while. Well, I can tell you we're not dropping under 300 now, and I reckon I'm about to get dropped. So this is, what do you reckon? This is another, probably the third or fourth time we've gone up above 400 watts for myself. And the guy on the front who ends up winning, I think it's, or at least this group here. Now, this group in front of me are the guys who ride away, like they ride away from everyone on this climb. Now you can see my power again dropping off. I'm trying to get a little bit of a rest. I reckon I've got one more surge in me. And I'm going to be in trouble. A bit like this fella here, starting to look around, and gaps are starting to form. There's only 500 meters to the top of the climb, but the top 500 meters are the steepest, and it's where I'm going to probably run into the biggest issues. Here comes another surge. So with 200 meters to go, I'm dropped, I'm gone. So we've talked about what I should have done, how I could have prepared myself for this particular race, okay, with that over-under sessions. That's no good to Chris Miller 6 weeks ago in this bike race. I really still want to give a good account of myself. I want to finish in the top 10, okay? I want to finish in the top 10 in this race. Now, what I can do is I'm going to try two tricks to get myself around this course. I know I'm fit, I just don't have any punch, okay? So what can I do? What can I do to try and solve this problem? Well, now we've seen the climb in full. We're going to come back to it again on the second lap. And one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the front. Now, 300 meters to go. On the last time we went up this, there was a big surge, wasn't there? Big surges. So what I tried to do is set my own tempo up the climb. And as you can see, when we hit that 300 meters to go mark, I was on the front and I was riding around what we think is kind of my threshold. So instead of there being the big 400 surges, and this was purely me trying to take control a little bit, and it doesn't always work, but it's just a technique. So instead of this now being a 450 kind of surge, now I'm sure it wasn't me taking the sting out of anyone's legs, it's more that we're closer to the top now, and I got to ride hard, but I got to ride what I wanted to ride. And instead of this now, being 450 or whatever it was that I couldn't follow, this is now sitting much closer to where my threshold is. And, you know, I've got over this. So I'm still in running for the top 10 as we're picking up some of the guys that would maybe potentially dropped from the group in front. So that was one of the techniques that I thought I would use to try and help myself. Now, the other technique that I used is, now, as I've said, there's no punch. There's no punch in my legs. I knew it. You get that feeling, don't you, when you get out of the saddle or something, and here comes a surge, okay? Here comes a surge, and you know it. It's not in your legs. It's not in your legs. So what can you do, all right? What can you do as an athlete at this point to try and alleviate this and stay in the race? These guys are riding away from me, okay? Now, again, we'll kind of pay a little bit of attention to my power. I can't go with that 500 watt surge. I can't do it. But I'm not going to panic. I know there's two things in my favour here. The first is that the steep sections are still to come and I'm light, okay? Also, this guy's got a bit of momentum. I can potentially use him for a little bit, but I know that there's a steep section at the top of this. I also know to get back into this race, I need to get there before they crest it. Otherwise, I'm in trouble. So I'm going to ride, but I didn't react to the 450 surge. I'm going to ride a surge that I can manage, okay? And build that surge. So I see I started at around 380 and I just built up. I'm out of the saddle. I'm now out of the saddle and I'm going to ride this. I'm going to ride this tempo. I'm just going to stare at those wheels in front of me and I'm going to ride this back. And I know that there's a left-hand turn coming and that left-hand turn is going to be a bit of a flat section and I need to time my arrival to the front of the bunch with that flat section, which will give me the best recovery. It will give me the best recovery as we make the left. And so I've managed to make the junction and I get a recovery, okay? So instead of having to react brutally to that surge that I knew I couldn't go with, okay? That would be the end of my day. I was able to just hold on and ride my own tempo across. So guys, I know none of that is absolute rocket science, but let's just go back through it real quick. So the first is the training sessions that would have been really beneficial, and that's the over-under stuff, okay? So under your threshold, over your threshold, and just moving between the two is a really good way of preparing yourself for race surges and that kind of thing. But that doesn't help unfit you, okay, and you're in the bike race. And the other two things we talked about, the first is take control of the race. If you know there is someone in the bunch or you're not that fit, try to almost psychologically take hold and go to the front and be like, no guys, I'm the fittest here, I'm gonna ride the tempo. And maybe that guy who's got that big punch won't go, you know? Maybe you put him off. Maybe they then think that you're fitter than they are, and just play into that a little bit, okay? And the third thing is ride your tempo, but ride it strategically, okay? It's all good and well not to react to surges and then be like, right, I'm gonna ride to my numbers and bring it back, that's what I'm gonna do. That's all good and well, but well, if the bunch crests a climb and drops down the other side and they're 4 minutes in front of you, great, well done, you got dropped anyway, riding your tempo. So it's about still managing your effort to make sure that you get back to, you know, the surge that you couldn't follow at the right moment in the race. All right guys, I really hope you enjoyed that. We have a huge couple of weeks coming up, bike racing and all that kind of stuff. I'm super keen to bring you on board with it. I'm hoping to do something similar to what we did last time at Tour Down Under. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please do make sure to subscribe to the channel, like these videos, send us a comment, give us some feedback. What would you like to see at the upcoming races? We always like to hear from you. Alrighty guys, take care, see you real soon.